Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. My name is Dr. Haifa Maamar. I am the Education Director of Emerging Technologies at Sial University. And today we're streaming live from the Fortress at Sial, but also on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Today's Tech Tuesday is a topic that you've been asking for a long time. Every time we had one of those Tech Tuesdays in the past months, you've been asking all questions about NFTs, blockchain, Metaverse, even though the topics were not really about that. So we listened to you guys, and that's why today we're doing this big event that's streamed everywhere, and we're talking about blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, Metaverse, and how they're all affecting our daily lives. And I'm having this amazing panel with me today, these industry experts that are all working in the industry of the Metaverse and blockchain and crypto, and they will be explaining all these topics to you guys. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today and for coming, flying from all over, Nashville, Seattle, everywhere, and so we have locals here, to talk about this and to share your knowledge with everyone today. So before we start talking about all these different terms and what they mean and how they're affecting our life, how about you start by introducing yourself, telling us about your background and how you're related, or how you're related to this blockchain / crypto / NFT / metaverse and so on. Brice, you want to start?
Yes, Brice Perez. I am with Google, just a small company.
Very small, Google, yes.
Small company. Focused on basically the digital assets cloud team, where we are basically strategically enabling Web3 organizations from all sizes, even if you are utilizing blockchain or you're interested in utilizing blockchain. I am there as a technical solutions engineer to help you utilize cloud technology to scale that.
Thank you. Dr. Steve.
My name is Dr. Steve Adkins. I've been a professor here at Sial for about 12 years. Some of my background, I've been a controller. I've been a Small Business Development Center at UCF. I've done a number of other things, but where the NFT comes into play here is I've co-founded a company called Artisans, and what we do is we look at local art, and we also want to try to provide music artists with being able to put music in the metaverse and also do live performances. And I co-founded this company with...
Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Jenkins. I am a course director here at Sial University. I teach product and artist management in the Entertainment Business Masters program. But I also co-own Conscious Mind Records, Inc. I'm also the CEO of Conscious Mind Records. And the label itself is one of the reasons why I dove heavy into learning about the metaverse and NFTs, because for those that don't know, we'll talk about it later, that's where entertainment is heading. So
nice.
I want to stay ahead of the curve. So we'll talk about that more later.
Cool. Thank you. Michael.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Edelant. I am the VP Experience Design Director for Third Time Games. We are building 2 projects on the Solana blockchain. A bit about myself. 2005 digital media grad, and then also 2015 mobile development bachelor's grad. Mm-hmm. I've been in the sports and marketing industry, or sports and gaming industry, for about 15 plus years or so, and so I can't get away from sports. I've tried, but I just get reeled back in. And so otherwise, take it to you.
Thank you, Michael. Albert?
I'm Albert Perez. I'm a 2005 game design and development graduate. I am the technical lead at Stageverse. And a little bit of my background, I come from games, coming from game design and development. I've shipped Xbox One, Smart Glass. I've worked in the HTC Vive from the very beginning up to shipping it. I've started my own company, Doghead Simulations, which was here at Sial, and now I'm part of Stageverse, which we create metaverse platforms.
Perfect. Well, thank you, and I hope you guys understand and see with me that this panel is amazing, and they're really experts in the field of metaverse, blockchain, crypto, and so on. Thanks. So before we start talking about how are these technologies affecting our life? What about we start by first explaining what all these terms that we've been using, what they mean, and so on. So, blockchain, who wants to take pass? Yeah, go ahead.
Gladly take it. Gladly take it. And it can keep evolving as time goes on. But I like to simplify it as blockchain is a type of a distributed ledger technology that allows you to validate and secure digital assets, basically transactions, almost similar to a database in a way. So that's just a simple taste of.
Okay, so it's a database where we're making transactions and so on.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Crypto.
Cryptocurrency, to make it easy for anyone to understand, you basically imagine taking a dollar and turning it into a digital dollar. And that's pretty much what cryptocurrencies are. They have a variety of kinds, from those that are what they call stable coins, which they're locked into a certain amount. Like some would be locked into the same price as the dollar, which makes it easy for you to transfer your regular money to into a crypto. And then you have those that are like a store of value, like Bitcoin, which they're saying is similar to the store of value of gold. And then you have meme coins, which meme currencies, which are tokens built usually on another blockchain, but those are normally joke tokens that sometimes, if they're lucky, turn into something else. So then, of course, you have the exchange tokens. So there's a whole lot of different cryptocurrencies out there, but the layman's terms for it is it's basically taking regular money and turning it into a digital money. And
we have some logos of cryptocurrencies that are displayed behind us.
Absolutely. That's OMI, that's showing right there. Has a lot to do with the NFT world. Sandbox is, that's their cryptocurrency, Sand. And then let's see what else we got. USDC, this is a stable coin, which is pegged to the dollar. So it's supposed to, match up to the dollar itself. What other ones we got? Of course, I said Bitcoin. That's the biggest one of them all, by the way. Cardano, ADA, is another big currency. ADA is their coin. And then, of course, Crow, or Cronus now, as they call it, for Crypto.com. So those are just some of the basic ones. Like, we can go forever. There's almost 20,000 coins right now, currencies. So it'll take all day to name them.
And it keeps going
That's interesting. So one of the questions later on will be how to choose, like which one to choose. Okay, before we go into that, NFTs. How about you, Dr. Steve?
NFTs is an acronym that stands for non-fungible token, which is a fancy way of saying you have one of one. It's unique. Probably the most well-known ones, as you can see there on the screen, are the Bored Ape Yacht Clubs.
It's not displayed yet. Let's display it on the screen. There you go.
There we go. And each one of these is unique. And the reason these are so popular, a lot of celebrities have gotten into it. This is its own club. If you take a look at consumer behavior, people like to belong to a club and so on. But the unique thing about these Bored Ape Yacht Clubs is NFTs is there is no, if you go out and you buy, like, say, a Disney IP, a Disney NFT, you just can't put that in any kind of advertisement whatsoever. These, you can. You basically own the rights to that Bored Ape Yacht Club. There are other NFTs out there. An NFT can be music. It can be any kind of digital asset that you take a look at, anything you can see on your computer. But the thing to remember about NFTs is these are the only things you're going to be able to take into the metaverse, which we will talk about here in a bit, because this all leads to the metaverse. You're not going to be able to take in a music track. You're not going to be able to take in a JPEG or anything like that. So where I first heard about NFTs is about 2 years ago. A LeBron James video clip of a dunk was sold for $200,000, and people flipped out. And they was like, how can a video clip that I can share with anybody, that I can post on a website, be sold for $200,000? You're not going to be able to just take a regular video clip in. You're going to have to make it into an NFT. I'm not a LeBron James fan. I'm more of a Jordan fan, but so I wouldn't pay $200,000 for a LeBron, but I might a Jordan. Not that I have that kind of money, but these NFTs are probably what people have heard about and wondering about. So that's what we're going to try to answer here today is trying to take a look at how these NFTs, how crypto all come together into the metaverse.
Perfect. Another word that we're going to be hearing a lot is Web3. But Brice, I want you to explain the differences between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3.0, because it explains how we got to where we are today.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. The best way to put it is you go into this particular order, and we're used to Web 1.0 as read. Information is just displayed on the website from some content poster, publisher, etc. And then time goes on, and then we were able to interact with that information, and that's Web 2.0. So you have the right aspect, read and write. So we all become content contributors in the social world that we live on, the social platforms that we live on, and they become more dynamic, and the user experience become more better, and et cetera. And now we're going into this Web 3.0 realm, and this is ownership. So you tie read, write, and ownership. The content you post, the content you take away, you have the ability to own that. And the underlying component that's being added to it, it always kind of existed, but now it's being added to it, or it's coming all together, and that's blockchain in the back end.
I love it. And the last word is the metaverse. And for us to explain the metaverse, what about we go into a metaverse? And we actually worked with Albert today. His company and him, like they're building a metaverse at Stageverse. And we decided to take you all to the metaverse so you can see what that means. And Albert will be able to explain what the metaverse is.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll wait. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
So, welcome to the metaverse. This is one of our spaces in Stageverse. So I would like to describe the metaverse as something that we've already been playing most of our lives, right? Anyone who's here has played a video game that's multiplayer. I would say that's the genesis of the metaverse. So, for example, Ultima Online, MUDs, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty. These are all worlds that allow people to come together and do an activity. With the metaverses of today, the big difference is that we now have the blockchain technology to allow transfer of NFTs, ownership of items from one metaverse world to another. So before, when you play World of Warcraft, you say you got a dagger as a rogue, right? But that dagger only stays with you in World of Warcraft. But now, if that World of Warcraft says, hey, we want to make that dagger into an NFT, then there's that possibility to actually bring that dagger to other worlds. Now, I'm saying that as one use case. It's not always going to be the case to bring every item from one world to another, because it wouldn't make sense to do that. It will become very expensive, and something we'll probably talk about later in terms of all the tokenomics and NFTs, minting, and all that fun stuff. But the great thing about the metaverse is it allows us to own, like what Brice said, own items, own our digital identities, and be able to control that and bring that to any other world from now till forever. So that is the great thing that's changing how we build metaverses. And the great thing about this is here at Full Sail University, we're already training and teaching these students how to build metaverses through gaming technology, because the metaverse is actually built on games, on the skill sets that are made for games. And that's why I came from a gaming background, and that's why I can apply my expertise into helping create the metaverse.
Amazing, thank you. So, as you see, guys, those are students. We shared the link this morning. Albert created the metaverse and shared the link with us, and students joined the metaverse, and we're streaming live through through the metaverse. So you talked about the skills and the education that is needed to build a metaverse. So let's talk about that. We talked about games, and but we're talking general. So what is the technology behind building a metaverse?
So that's a great question, because it's multiple pillars.
I know, yes, it's like a vertical thing.
Vertical
yes.
slices for everything, right?
Yeah.
So we can start with programming, right? So if you're in the game dev, game design, SimVis, software engineering degrees, or mobile even, you are the ones that are building the code, the rules, putting them together, right? So that's one piece that allows stuff to be built in a program in a development way. Mm-hmm. There's also the artists, which the one thing about the metaverse is it requires a lot of content, right? So what do I mean by content? 3D art, sound, video, net writing, right? So all these content needs to be collated created and implemented in these game engines. And with these metaverses, usually they will be created using Unity engine, Unreal Engine, or your own engine. It could be native using the iPhone or Android. But all these technologies, like I said earlier, is all based off gaming technologies, which is amazing and really very important. And that's the tech side, and there's also the entertainment business side, because you need people to be able to write business plans, you need the tokenomics and all that stuff. So it's really running it like a business. Don't think Web3 organizations are just kind of fun things that just happen out of nowhere. It's a big organization that really needs to come together to build it.
Mm-hmm. So how does this blockchain technology work with crypto, with NFT, with the metaverse, and so on? How are they all related? And how can someone use all of it? Where to start, kind of,
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, one key thing that I left out in the beginning when regarding to blockchain is the fact that we talked about the blockchain serves as a purchase of validation and the security of those assets, any type of assets, not necessarily cryptocurrencies per se, but the idea is it's done with cryptography. And those transactions are recording the back and forth, the sending and receiving, and that's a huge component there. There's infrastructure that's needed for that. And I think we get away from the idea that some of these virtual worlds, it's not being done on the blockchain per se. That's just a core component.
Okay.
And sometimes we get so caught up in what blockchain is doing, but there's organizations like, say, for instance, Figure.com. Figure.com is basically doing typical things where it's providing loans, lending, and HELOC. If you go to their website, they're not forcing blockchain on you, but they're using blockchain. And we get to a space where the user can actually have ease of use. The user experience is decent, or it's familiar to what they've seen in the past in Web 2. But blockchain is making that experience happen faster. You can get your funds quicker within 3 days or 5 minutes of filling out an application. That's where change starts to happen. So you'll see more of those organizations start to abstract you away from what blockchain is doing, but it benefits you on the front end. And that's a key thing of how a lot of these things come together. We'll start to see more things where blockchain is storing deeds to property. And it's not just assets as for a hat in a video game, but it starts to expand to healthcare records, et cetera. Yeah, and it's a good kind of, I know, Dr. Steve, you also wanted to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say from kind of taking a look at it, like how it might affect you and I with NFTs, cryptos, the metaverse. An example of this would be, let's say that you have an artist that wants to give a show. All right, so you pay for the venue, they're on the stage. What you can do is the ticket for that show would actually be an NFT. And let's say that you take the video of that show and you put it on that NFT. And let's say this is a young Drake and you don't know what you have yet. And let's say the person that is managing this sets up the stage, we film it, we apply it then to the NFT. As that artist starts to become bigger and more popular, you can resell that NFT. That's where the value of it comes into play. But we can even take it a step further. At the same time that artist is doing a concert in real life, we can also then have that same artist do a concert in the metaverse. And what comes into play there for NFTs is what shoes do they want to wear. If they want a pair of Nikes, those are going to have to be NFTs. If they want to wear a certain shirt, that's going to have to be an NFT. But that representation of that artist can be done in the metaverse at the same time they can do it in real life. So here's what I always think about. Many, many decades ago, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in one game. And I think there was about 9,000 people in attendance to that. Well, if that game had an NFT for a ticket, you could prove that you went to that game, because some of the reporters around ESPN and so on said, I've probably met 1 million people that went to that game. All right. Well, if you had the NFT and you were the original owner, then you could say, yes, I did attend that game. And last year in the SoFi, with the Super Bowl in SoFi Stadium in LA, every person who went to the Super Bowl got an NFT as a way of saying, you were at this game, and so on. Can they resell that NFT? They sure can. But if they're original owner, you could prove that you went to that game.
Thank you. So we're seeing more industries right now getting into the metaverse. We're talking like in terms of industries, healthcare, for example. Lots of healthcare companies are now using the patient records as an NFT. We have concerts, as you mentioned, where we're also now attending the concert in the metaverse and so on. We have some brand name stores like Gucci and other brand names who will allow you to buy shoes, for example, in the metaverse, and then those shoes will be delivered to you in real life. There are so many different applications right now of the metaverse, and we are seeing that it's affecting our real life. We even remember, Dr. Steve, when we were talking about even real estate right now is happening, where like you're buying lands in the metaverse and so on. So tell me more about that. How is it affecting our market? Or everyone, please feel free to what's happening in the market? What's happening? How is it affecting our life?
Well, the cool thing about the land in the metaverses is, because it's on the blockchain, you can literally own a piece of that land. And like, for instance, my company, Conscious Mind Records, we're buying land in multiple metaverses. So when we do live concerts, not only, can somebody come to the physical show and we stream it there, but we're going to be streaming it in, the multiple different metaverses that are out there. And there's a lot of different ones to choose from. Mm-hmm. What it does is it opens up, for the business side of things, it opens up more revenue, because although they're paying physical dollars here in the real world, well, they can also pay crypto to come into the concert in the metaverse world. And of course, crypto translates into, whatever dollar you want to turn it into eventually. But in the end, it really takes it to a whole nother level of business aspect. You can pretty much expand business to double the income that comes in. From my point of view.
Yeah, I'm looking at buying some land later on, and what I would like to do is I'd like to have a casino on my land, where you could play roulette
in the metaverse,
and use crypto to play roulette or Texas Hold'em or anything like that. I'd also like.
So what will be the NFT then there?
The NFTs you would probably have to have the NFTs would have to be roulette. You'd have a pack of cards. You'd have to have tables, just like setting it up in the real world. You'd have to have those types of things.
Okay.
The NFTs, but I also like to have a stage in there, so like artists that Thomas, has got that can be playing while in the casino and things like that. So those are the types of things that I would like to do, along with renting NFTs and so on. But I know that. They've got, if you could put that on the back screen here, I'll just go ahead and talk about that right now and kind of show you how NFTs are impacting music
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is a real life example of how crypto and NFTs can be used within the music industry. If you notice there on the left-hand side, you actually have an artist called Blau. And what Blau did is he sold 33 tokens. And these 33 tokens together give you 50% of any Spotify revenue that Blau earns off of the music that's played in Spotify. So what you could do is you could go out and buy those 33 tokens. Actually, I think it was 333. You could buy those tokens, and then any money that Blau makes off of Spotify will come to you via a smart contract. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Now, if you notice down there, then below the NFT holders, it said a 5% transaction fee to artists if NFT is sold in the market. So let's say Blau's music takes off on Spotify. You can actually sell that NFT, and Blau will get 5% of whatever proceeds that NFT makes. This is called passive income. So if you take a look over there on the side, artist has made dollars from NFT sale, still makes 50% of the Spotify revenue. And every time that token that he sold to get that Spotify revenue, if you're a token holder, he gets 5% every time you resell that NFT as an artist. So it is passive income. Think of it like this. If you can get into something like this, or you can find NFTs that people want to rent for certain utility, it's like sitting on the beach and making money. You won't even have to lift a finger.
Yeah, a beautiful thing about this example that Steve just gave is there is no middleman. Like, this is money straight from the artist. to the consumer back to the artist. So there isn't, 80% of your, $10 being sold for the CD. 80% of that is not going to other people. That's literally coming straight direct to the artist that's selling it, obviously if they do it themselves. And so it really streamlines your money, and it puts way more back into the entertainer's pocket, which is the beautiful thing about it.
I was going to just touch on, too, that passive income applies to gaming as well. So it's very similar in terms of our assets for our experiences. We do receive royalties off of each transaction on those assets. The caveat to that, though, is there are services that are coming out that allow over-the-counter trades. And so bypassing those royalties, we don't get to collect or monetize off that transaction. Mm-hmm. And so that hurts us when we look into that being our strategy as far as funding our development costs, et cetera. So we've had to pivot and readjust based off of some of these services that are coming out. So it's something to look out for, especially when you're planning for that passive income strategy.
So another thing about NFTs is a big adopter of it has been fashion. So there's been a few big brands out there like Gucci. I know Lacoste has its own NFT now. Artifact, which is owned by Nike, right? Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about this is that they will partner with the metaverses through the avatars, right? So for example, at Stageverse, we had a partnership with Balmain. It's a fashion brand that we put one of the dresses that they have on the avatars, and they're able to show it off in the metaverse. You can be that person owning the Balmain.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and even not having to buy it, you can use it as an avatar. So there's a lot of business opportunity for different brands to either give away, or when you purchase, let's say a Nike Air Force One, that you get the same Air Force One as a digital product that you can resell or add to your avatar. And that's where the blockchain kind of an NFT kind of comes through, right? Is your avatar is something that represents you usually, right? And you want to be able to wear the same kicks you have in real life in the digital world. And that's really where a lot of that magic kind of happens. And the thing is, that's like the tip of the iceberg, right? We have a long way to go to see where we can innovate and really bring that to the next level.
So one question, we're talking, for example, about those shoes, like the Nike, for example. And then you're buying it in the metaverse, it's being delivered in the physical, but then also your avatar now is wearing that NFT of the Nike. How does it translate in terms of cost?
Right. So a lot of times when you create an NFT, you mint it, there's transactional costs. And really depends on the network, because Solana could be cheaper or Ethereum could be more expensive, and there's the things like network congestion. But another thing that's kind of cool too, if you really want to have those pairing, is there's been a thing now that you can buy an NFT, and the utility they add is you can either burn that NFT. When you burn an NFT, you basically destroy it by actually just putting it in a wallet that no one can access. But when you do that, you're redeeming a physical product. So you can either hold on to the NFT, resell it, and then you can convert it to a real product. So we're seeing a lot of these kind of utility transactions as people are exploring and trying to figure out how to bring out utility into NFTs, something you'll hear about a lot.
Okay. So how to start in this business? How to get an NFT, create or innovate? Is there some kind of community out there where people or artists or innovators can get some support and get their questions answered?
Yeah, I'll just add that the fact that majority of the organizations that are out there are trying to not only just cater towards institutions, but they're trying to gain the attentions of developers. And that's where the user experience starts. We've been so accustomed to certain standards, so accustomed to a rich user experience when we interact with some of these platforms, that is slowly transferring over into the Web3 space.
Okay.
And one of the things is that it usually starts with large institutions, that you start with, how can I hold my assets? And that's custodial. That's a custody in a way. And then it starts to build upon that. How can I exchange that? And how can I transfer that into something else? Mm-hmm. You'll slowly see some of these institutions mature into the place where they give you that endosis. You can be brave and you can go out and utilize a decentralized app or you would search for dApps that allow you to do those certain things. But some of the institutions, some of the major players of the exchanges, they have programs and platforms that allow you to store these assets, to exchange and swap these assets,
Perfect.
and they'll slowly bring you into, I guess, a deeper ecosystem that exposes you to more. So it's usually a bit of a discovery, but of course you always want to mitigate yourself from certain risks.
Perfect.
Right, and for the average person that isn't behind the technical side of things, I mean,
Yes.
like you said, there's platforms like OpenSea that anyone could go to if they have the right kind of digital wallet, which is Ethereum, and I think Polygon is the other one they have on there. I know it's Ethereum, so the average person can just go on there and literally buy an NFT. Of their choice, and then take it and turn it into put a use to it somewhere down the road. But it's not hard. You just got to find out which platform you want to use, because like I said, Ethereum is the biggest one that most NFTs are on. But there's other platforms out there. Like I know Steve deals with Vivi quite a lot.
So how do we choose what crypto we should use? What blockchain we should use or platform we should use? There are so many choices out there that I am personally I'm looking at, I'm just getting overwhelmed with okay, what am I supposed to do here?
I usually use an analogy of that. We have to think about what phase we are in a particular space. So I use the idea of Apple. You say Apple have the App Store.
Cool.
And that's a platform.
Yes.
And they knew that they couldn't build out every single app in the world. They build the basics to get you started. They have the hardware, they have the operating system, but they said the phone will come with the phone app, because that is software, a calculator, a calendar, etc. But we're going to build an app store, and we're going to invite the world. Anybody can be a developer if you take the time to do it. We're going to invite developers to build certain things for various industries. What we have seen is mainly focus on finance, or what we would call decentralized finance, the financial version of what we see in the crypto world. And then you can equate that platform, that Apple App Store, to where people are building applications on, to Ethereum. Ethereum is a version of that in the sense where it is a platform, it has a cryptocurrency tied to it, but people can build dApps on it, decentralized applications on it.
Okay.
And these cater towards different industries as well. And so how you get involved with it is depending on the platform that you're choosing. Ethereum, Solana, and that's where interoperability comes in. Some of these assets are not transferable from over to either platform.
Exactly. So one of the question was interoperability, of course, is that something that you can buy, an item that you can buy in one metaverse or one platform is not, does it even transfer to another? Does that technology exist already where you can use it in another metaverse?
Yeah. So it's going to become more seamless, but typically right now it's in the beginning stages, and you'll see things regarding around hacks and things like that. But it's usually considered bridges. These bridges allow you to go take one asset from one platform, one network, one blockchain to another. And then there's other layer zero platforms like Polkadot or Cosmos.
Okay.
These allow the communication of multiple blockchains, so that experience is a little more seamless. It'll get to a point where you'll want to see a space where it's agnostic. I don't care where my asset lives.
I was going to say, are we there yet?
I just want, and we're not quite there yet. There's a lot of pieces that has to be filled in. Like Albert mentioned, that there's some traffic issues, outages that usually happen with various blockchains and sending and receiving. Some of them are in beta stages where they're not used to the scale that the traffic usually brings on certain days. That's no difference from Web 2, where certain websites go down when a release of a video game or a release of a console come out, or it's Black Friday. These blockchains experience that, and they need time to mature, to adapt to that change, to adapt to that traffic. And there's infrastructure involved, there's networking involved to get there. And to go back to the idea of where do you start? You play around with certain type of Web3 applications, and usually that is like MetaMask or a Coinbase wallet. These things have this concept of connect. Your assets is stored on these digital wallets. They talk to that blockchain. You go to dApps, and then the dApp says, which wallet would you like to use? Explore research, do your due diligence, play around with sending and receiving. Not too large of money, because you might lose it, but it all depends.
Of course.
Yes, but you play around with some of these apps, you get curious. There's decentralized browsers like Brave, where a lot of the leadership from that team came over from Mozilla. And it has built-in wallets. Opera has adopted some of these concepts where it's built-in wallets. And these allow you to interact with some of these dApps in certain ways where it becomes a little bit more familiar over time, and it's starting to look like Web 2. but there's still some learning curves to it. But that's where you start, is researching and looking for the key terms of Web3 wallets or Web3 applications, Web3 dApps.
Okay, thank you. Michael, you wanted to add?
I was just going to touch on, in terms of our team at Third Time, we chose Solana mainly. Ethereum has gas fees and fees associated with those transactions. Solana doesn't, but it's also one of the faster blockchains. But the thing is, it doesn't. We've had some bumps in the road. So, like, due to network congestion or minting or bot attacks on particular mints, blockchain will go down. They have to pull it down, patch it up. And so the thing is, none of the projects on that blockchain can be accessible at that point in time. You can't swap your assets, trade your assets. You can't. No transactions could actually go through. That said, we've had a direct line with Solana. We've been working with them closely, and it's the one thing that I will say in terms of all the different projects that are on Solana is we've been communicating with a lot of the other game teams, and we're all in support of one another too. Mm-hmm. So we're even though we're competing in the same space, we're all supporting each other because we want
helping each other, sharing knowledge.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And but that's mainly why we chose Solana in particular. But there's nothing saying you have to stick to one. Yep. You know, it's like experiment with all of them, because ultimately, there's benefits to each, and there could be assets or something that you want to invest in that on a particular blockchain, and there's nothing saying you shouldn't go after it.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, a lot of it has to deal with each different network will have its own different people using it. So, for example, Ethereum, with the higher gas fees, you will tend to have projects that cost more, right? Like in the thousands of dollars when you mint, when you buy. Like that's where there's a lot of blue chip projects there, which is the top projects. But like I would have loved to pick Solana, but it didn't really match our use case because we don't have a lot of transactions going on yet. We don't need that high throughput. We just need like a network that we know that will last long.
So when we're talking challenges here, I'm sorry, just trying to explain to our audience, we're talking different things that you need to look into, like scalability, network stability, latency, and so on. What else?
Another thing to look at.
Cost.
Another thing to look at too, though, is from the business side of things. Where are the people at? Like if I'm going to be putting up the concert hall, if I'm putting up advertisements, I need to know where I'm going to find the most people or area where it's most congested, to where I can set up shop, like if I buy land in that particular metaverse. So it's all based on what perspective. You're coming from a business perspective, then you're looking at how many transactions can it do. But if you're coming from a buyer's perspective, a consumer perspective, you want to find out where the people are, and is the style of that blockchain, does it create the atmosphere you're looking for? Are they able to design atmospheres that you're looking for on those blockchains?
I love that you said that, because like based on what Michael said, so they're choosing speed over other things. But Albert, in his case, they don't have that many transactions, so then they're choosing the stability of the network.
Now, I was going to say, as far as NFTs are concerned about which ones to get, I would say buy what you like. As an example, with me, I'm huge Disney fan, Marvel fan. Most of my NFTs are Disney and Marvel, and personally, I feel safe with those IPs because they are huge companies, and I'm sure a little bit later on we'll talk about what I see Disney doing with NFTs and this whole metaverse as well.
I wanted to add to this, like two things. The bot situation, we like to focus on the negatives of blockchain and how these certain things may, throw us back or make us stand back a little bit. But bot is not a blockchain problem. That's a Web 2 issue as well. If we're familiar with the term scalping, and then people wanting to get a PlayStation 5 and they're unable to. The bots that exist, spammer bots that exist on Twitter. And so these are just problems that people are trying to solve in Web 2, and their skill set may be transferable to help in the blockchain space as well, and in the Solana space as well. And there's just so many different things where we assume that blockchain means that we no longer will use the technology that's helping us scale or helping us secure certain applications. because it's not necessarily decentralized, but there's a lot of opportunity there where it can be used to help with the bots. It can be used to help scale and have, I guess, mitigate those traffic issues, et cetera.
And to add to that, right, like, don't think that Web3 is replacing Web2, because Web2...
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Web3 is going to be there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so as we're talking about this, and I love that you mentioned how like we're not replacing anything and we're not losing anything, but still many people are being skeptical about the idea of Metaverse, crypto, NFT, blockchain. Like they're not, you have two groups where people really believe in it and people are saying in the back and they're saying that, like they're being very skeptical. I don't want to invest in this. I don't want to even get into this or whatsoever. And I understand from like when you look at the market and what's out there and what's being done, I understand that people are scared, especially with the nature of what we're going through right now, even after the pandemic, post-pandemic. But let's start with the positive things, the benefits of all this. Can you guys tell me and share with the audience what are the benefits of crypto, NFT, blockchain, metaverse, all of this?
Yeah, I would love to go from a personal perspective. I have 2 young girls, and I'm always talking to them about finance. I feel like crypto, since the beginning, I've been doing it for like 7 years now, investing into it outside of what I do for a living. But crypto has taught me about the financial world in a certain way. So if we think about a concept of leaving your money in the checkings account, and that does not get you anything but negative interest in a way where you think about inflation rate 7 to 8%, you're losing money as your money sit there. The value of your money is decaying over time. We don't feel it because it happens over time, but if you ever talk to someone that's older, they'll say, I remember when gas was 50 cents. And you're like, 50 cents? What? What are you talking about? But that's because the value of money has changed over time and it buys you less. So you take it to another step higher. You say you can get a high yield savings account and that gives you 1% or a little bit less than 1%. That's not really beneficial if you're calculating the inflation. But then you have decentralized finance where it gives you the opportunity, and not to say that it's all perfect, nothing's 100% secure, but that's where you do your research. But it gives you the opportunity to get 7, 8%, 10%, 20%. And then opportunities where there's liquidity providing. Liquidity providing is where you become your own Coinbase and you provide 2 assets. And when people trade those assets, you get a percentage of the fee, another stream of income. So I'm instilling these things, building on basics of risk. What is currency? What is fiat? What is inflation? What is compound interest? Dollar cost averaging? And then how does blockchain provide me access to those things that I may not be able to find in the real world?
I love it. Go ahead, Dr.
Some of the positives I see with NFTs is this. As an example, well, before I even get into this, there is one aspect about this we have not talked about, and that is VR versus AR. VR is where you have the goggles, and AR is where you have the glasses. Now, personally, I'm more interested in the AR. VR would be the example of the video that you saw earlier, where it's an immersive experience. It looks like you're actually in a room. AR is where you're going to have a pair of glasses, and there's going to be a layer of what's called augmented reality. It looks like it's there, but it's not there. So what does this mean, and why am I excited and positive about this? As an example, let's say you have a warehouse in St. Louis. It is completely empty, and you want to put a haunted house in it. You can have an aspect where you can have real life people in there, and then you could trick out the rest of the warehouse with NFTs. As an example, and any of you have seen Stranger Things in the last season, that haunted house, I'm sure somewhere down the road you're going to be able to buy that NFT, and it's going to look like that haunted house is inside that warehouse. Now, here's the beauty of this, and I'll use a personal example of this. Instead of going to Walmart and buying Christmas decorations, buying strings of lights, things out front, that you want to have your house look like, Christmas time, especially here in Florida. I always laugh about that. But with AR glasses and NFTs, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to buy a house that looks like it's Santa's workshop. It's going to be right on the top of your house. It's not really going to be there, but the augmented reality is going to make it look like it's there. It's going to look like there's going to be snow in your front yard. You could have reindeer walking around in your front yard. Here's the beauty of this. People that have got AR glasses are going to be able to see it. You don't have to shove it in the attic. You don't have to insure it. It will probably increase in value over the years if you buy the right ones. And that way you can make it look like you have a winter wonderland without really having any kind of physical items to do that on. So those are the types of applications that excite me, especially with the augmented reality.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful parts about cryptocurrency that I love is to be able to transfer my money without being charged a gazillion dollars to do it. I don't know if any of you guys have ever, gone overseas and had to transfer your dollars to another currency. They hit you with charges on that, right? Anytime you're transferring large amounts of money, you're getting hit with charges, no matter what you're using, the bank or other things like that. When you can transfer large amounts of crypto and maybe pay less than pennies on, pennies for transferring $1 million kind of thing. Like it really makes a huge difference. And an example, on top of that, it's an easy transfer. My crypto's here. What you have on your end meets the qualifications, is sent with no middleman, very little transactional costs. When we first started the record label, we had, situations where we had trouble with the bank because we were moving $50,000, $60,000 from one person to another. And, once you're moving that amount in the bank, they starts throwing up red flags, especially if your company hasn't done it for a lot of multiple times, right? And so, we've had money that got held up while we're trying to throw concerts. We've had money that took us over a week and a half to get through the approval process. Whereas with cryptocurrency, we could have sent it the same day and got the money to the person that needed it without any kind of problem, and no middleman to, tell me I'm not doing things correctly when I am. So I think it just really opens up freedom and lowers your cost of being able to work more with your money that you have available to you.
Love this. But with also these terms, there are lots of concerns about security. So we're going to talk about laws and regulations that are applied to NFTs, blockchain, and crypto. There are so many legal concerns when it comes to this topic. And of course, security regulations have to be created and have to be applied, to make sure that users are doing the right thing. So regulators right now, what they're trying to do is that they need to keep reviewing what the users are doing, reviewing what kind of transactions are being applied or and so on, or being executing. But then the problem is that regulators are worried that the Web3 innovation is going so fast. It's funny, and it's leaving that appropriate regulations far behind because it's moving so fast. I was reading this article last week, and it's funny, one sentence in the article kept me thinking. It said, developers can code faster than any regulators can regulate because we keep innovating. There are lots of, this is kind of open, people keep adding, but then regulators are not keeping track of everything that's happening. And then, of course, that opens the door to so many security and legal concerns. So before we start talking about these laws and these regulations and whether you have this in your company, you have one person who's keeping track of everything, what about we give an example of an illegal or not okay action that happened recently? So that explains what we're dealing with.
Yeah, if you guys have been paying attention to the news recently, they were talking about Kim Kardashian getting into some trouble because she was promoting a certain currency and not letting the people know that she was being paid to do so. And so if you're working for, especially anything financial, if you're putting information out there for a company that's paying you, you have to disclose that to the people. And so I don't know if she did it on purpose. She probably didn't know because right now, I hate to say it, regulations in blockchain and crypto is all over the place. Nobody really knows what's going on. Even our government's trying to figure it out. But she got caught up in that because she was promoting this and not telling people that, I'm being paid to promote it. So that's something you have to be very careful of if you're on the marketing side of things.
Mm-hmm. Michael, I know you said that in your company specifically, you have someone right now.
Yes, I was going to touch. I mean, definitely there's gray area in terms of the regulations that currently exist. On top of that, though, it's a bit Wild West right now. Like, the ideation is happening. We're creating things. We're testing the waters. But ultimately, in terms of the projects that we're creating, everything is transactionally based. And so we have to make sure that in terms of the user experience, that our players have access to those transactions. So in case those regulations come down, they could actually provide their whole ledger and the entirety of their transactions to turn into the IRS or whatever it may be, because ultimately you're going to have to report on these assets and any profit you make over time on an annual basis. So, and that's still all coming to fruition as we speak. So.
I think I'll speak on the idea that we have a lot of the DAOs or decentralized autonomous organizations that they operate in such a way where they want to remain anonymous in a sense. And then some cases where it's some rules that probably or standards that might come into place where these individuals can't do certain things that they do with smart contracts as for bank runs and rug pulls, certain things like that. It goes even further and the rabbit holes goes even deeper with the idea of auditing. So you have actual firms that are saying they're auditing these smart contracts, but some of them may not want to attach their name to it and say that they audited it because they may have not did a good job, or it still gets hacked. And then they'll still get hacked, and they'll say, well, I thought you audited it. And so it's like, who are auditing the auditor? So there's a lot of, I would see it as there's cons, but there's opportunities. So you have ethical hackers and those who are identifying some of these organizations and saying you have a vulnerability, and then you have other individuals who take advantage of that vulnerability. But it's how you bounce back. It's how you recover from that. It's how you acknowledge your I guess your pitfalls, and then the space will continue to grow. It's no difference from when, as the internet evolved, no one really here probably thought about the idea that they're using HTTPS on a secure website. But some folks may have noticed it, the change or whatever, but these are certain standards that go into place where you can look up and see that I'm using secure website, or there's things in place in your browser that says, do you want to proceed? This website is not safe.
It's not safe.
Yeah, so some of those things will have to be implied or implemented into certain dApps that will make us feel more trustworthy. Will we get to 100%? That may not happen, but to the point where people are taken less advantage of, in a sense, over time as we continue to mature. A lot of the spaces, the security aspect of it, the technology of it, has to have time to mature.
I love
the security is a big issue. And it's not so much as in the blockchain not being secure as it is people being careless with their information. And when I say careless, there are some sharks out there that will trick even a smart person into being careless. So that's the biggest thing I'm seeing, people run into is that, is it safe? Is it not safe? And how do we make sure that it's safe? And a lot of the error is user error. The person giving their seed phrase to someone, not realizing you never give that to anybody. You guard that with your life.
I just wanted you said something. I think we discussed this during dinner too. Is that many of us don't realize that you engage with some of these dApps. And then once you go off into the decentralized world with your wallet, you are a walking bank in a sense. You are your IT department, you are your security department, and you're responsible for those assets that you have in that wallet. And then some of us, it's probably best for you to continue to use the Coinbases and the FTXs of the world. That's probably safe for you. They probably will secure your funds better than you could. But then taking it a step further and educating yourself on what is MFA, not just the sending the code to your phone and the text message, but the changing, the authenticative asset, the codes that are changing every 10 seconds, and taking it even further where you have two-factor authentication key fobs where you have to put it in and touch it to actually access your assets or the website. And I would never advise to put large amounts of money on certain exchanges if you feel that is necessary. There's things to help you out there. But realizing that as you go into this world, and now as you hold digital assets, whether it's cryptocurrencies or NFTs, you are responsible for that, and how you manage the access of that, how you protect those funds is extremely important. So education is at a higher level on a personal level.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, past that though, there's also attacks directly to wallet. There's this thing called airdrops where you receive NFTs directly in your wallet. So For instance, context, our project has been targeted where, with our horse racing game, our virtual horse racing, there was an apple that was airdropped to our holders. But if you access that apple, it was possibly a side door to go ahead and give access to your wallet. And next thing you know, all your NFTs are gone. So the thing is, there's always active individuals that are trying to game the system or game the game. And ultimately, it's your due diligence and responsibility to just stay on top of it. I think the projects are as strong as the communities as well. And so we try to be as active in the community to let our holders know that to look out for these things. So we become aware of it as soon as possible, and then we disseminate that information to the community so that they could be on guard as well.
Thank you. This is amazing. Thank you for sharing all these different perspectives. So Orlando is set to be the first digital twin, or to build the first digital twin for an entire region. It's been declared as the Meta City. We have Miami down south that's known for the blockchain and everything that is related to crypto. But then here in Orlando, we're the Meta City. We have everything. When you look at the ecosystem here, from military to education to simulation to entertainment. So it kind of it makes sense, but that's how it's been declared the Meta City. I wanted to know, from your perspective, what does this mean for the businesses here and for the entire region here?
I would say probably the company that I see having the biggest impact upon this is Disney. When Disney starts to go to augmented reality, think haunted. If you've ever been in the haunted house ride, that's not really augmented reality, but it sure looks like it. And I think they get away with that with mirrors and things like that. If you've ever gone through the haunted house ride at Disney, what you're going to be able to do is, and there's an article from Forbes that talks about this as well. I see Disney being able to just take blank spaces and completely change everything with them with an NFT with augmented reality glasses. If you've ever been to Disney and you went to the, at the end of the night, you're in front of the castle and there's fireworks and so on. If you got augmented reality glasses on, they can change that. They can change that castle to whatever they want. You walk into one of the rides, and maybe you're on a roller coaster, but everything else is augmented reality that looks like it's coming at you and so on. Like I said, think about like the haunted house. This allows Disney and other companies like this to make changes very easily without paint, without any kind of woodworking, any kind of craftsman that has to come in and, change things around. With NFTs, you just throw them up, you got the augmented reality, and there you go from there. So I really see Disney taking the lead on this. And almost every week I'm reading about what Disney, it's kind of all rumor at this point, but I just see Disney taking the real lead on this, and the CEO has talked about it a number of times.
I mean, they have a chief metaverse officer right now.
They do. They just hired a lawyer as well for the metaverse.
Yeah.
There's concept that we're accustomed to, like if you were searching for a home and you go to the website and you actually can see a digital representation, or it's pictures that are stitched together. We've seen that plenty of times to allow you to see what the space look like. So that's reimagining that, because the idea of Web 2.0 starting to get 2.5, 3.0, we're building layers on how we get ourselves engaged, or we immerse ourselves in the typical things we've done in the past, but it's starting to bleed into the metaverse in a sense. So real estate from perspective, if I never want to touch foot in Florida or whatever reason, I could look at the property that I'm interested in by going into the metaverse if it's applied into a virtual world. And then so I talk about that as in a sense of real estate from a perspective of surveying where I want to go, whether I heard that Lake known as like the smart city in a sense.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and then you have the idea of ownership that we continue to speak about, is that what if your deed was represented inside of an NFT, or you own portion of a property based off of some type of token. And as the value of that real estate property goes up, it's tied to your cryptocurrency. So you own portion, maybe 25% of the ownership of that home. So there's so much concepts that could be a prime location of that growth or that opportunity to innovate on what we've done in the past or what we've seen in the past, and how that comes together with virtual reality, blockchain, and infrastructure related to the internet.
I mean, another thing is, I remember I had a couple of months ago, I had John Cunningham, who was the head at Unity, and we were talking about digital twin. And one example he gave me is that investors, they don't need to come to Orlando anymore. They can go in the metaverse, look at the digital twin, and then decide what kind of project they're going to have, how this is going to impact the city, even run simulations there. Instead of spending all this money to build and figure out ways, now they can run simulation and understand how this is affecting and if it's going to work or not, and then update their prototype and update their designs based on the simulation results.
Yeah, and not just that. Orlando being the tourist capital of the United States, like here, and we have probably more people coming here just for vacations than any place else. There's a lot of people that can't travel, right? And so I think the metaverse opens up the opportunity for people to experience Orlando and Universal and Disney and all these things from home all around the world. So it's really going to bring I think it's really going to bring a bigger watchful eye to the Central Florida area, because, every place we've gone, like on tours and doing shows all around the U.S., people are always like, what's Orlando like? They get really excited just so they can experience Orlando. So I think the metaverse is really going to open us up to the world way bigger than what we are right now.
Albert?
Yeah, and I think with Orlando in general, is that there's a lot of talent here, and there's a lot of new talent being developed, right? From Full Sail to UCF, the other big universities here. And that's important because we, as the industry in building the metaverse, blockchain, crypto, we need more technical people, developers, we need content creators, we need creatives, we need business people. And it's just generating a lot of job opportunities.
It is. It's a big thing that Orlando City is pushing for, is that they need talent. And as you said, from developers to artists to content creators, it's the whole vertical slice that's needed. So, yeah.
I also see cities, you talked about a digital twin, absolutely. I also see cities dropping layers of augmented reality to where if you've got the glasses, you don't even need to go out and put billboards. You just throw the NFT up on the billboards. You could paint the town. Like, recently there was the Pride parade. You could, with augmented reality, you could paint the entire downtown Orlando in the Pride flag if you wanted to. And you could see it all with augmented reality. It's going to, eventually that's where we're going to be.
Amazing. Okay, I know we're way past time, so I want to give the chance to our audience here, or our audience, our audience live, to just ask their questions. So if you have questions, feel free. We're going to have the mic over there.
Yeah, one here.
We're having someone going.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi.
I'm Ezekiel Tyus, a game development student here at Full Sail. And you guys were talking earlier about regulation when it comes to the metaverse and Web3. Should we really trust the United States government to regulate stuff like that? When you look at things like the Facebook thing, or you look at what happened with, Robinhood? You know what I mean? Like, they don't even understand this technology, let alone, should they even regulate it?
I guess I'll chime in on the ideas that you have to understand, I guess, from a perspective that we have to look at, every government has the right to protect their borders to a certain extent. The businesses that run there, the businesses that they interact with internationally. And then you think about the idea that fiat money has some aspect of it's government issued. And if it's government issued, they own that. And so if it interacts or it harms the citizens of that state or the ecosystem and the economics of what's going on, they want to be able to control to a certain extent. We can't really escape that, so we have to be able to know how to navigate it. And some of the cryptocurrencies will have to, companies, organizations will have to understand how to do it as well. It's no way of getting away from it to a certain extent. You have to be able to have a conversation with them. I have peers that are very huge advocates where they go to their state lobbyists and the senators and things like that and having conversation. It takes the community to educate them about what crypto is and what blockchain is and how it can benefit is. But it's also going to take the government to help protect people from scams and phishing and all these different things. So it's a collaboration of things. It's decisions. It's you showing up to places where you can vote. And then somewhere along the line, blockchain will be implemented into voting, so we can know that our votes are being heard in a sense. So it goes two ways, and I think there is a need, there is a place for regulation, especially when it comes to the live as other, where it's healthcare records and those type of things. But technology finds a way, politics find its way, and I think there's a collaboration amongst all people to navigate where it's going.
The other thing is, as much as I don't want the government involved in setting the rules, first of all, like he said, for security, the other thing is there's a lot of big organizations that have not bought into the blockchain world because there is no regulation. They're scared to put their money in and then have the rules switched up on them, and then all of a sudden they wind up losing out a whole lot. So once the government finally understands it and gets it correct, you're going to see these markets start to explode because big institutions will no longer be afraid to put their dollar behind it. So as much as I don't want them involved, I want them involved like fast.
Michael, you wanted to add too?
I was going to touch on the same thing. I think it reduces that barrier of entry. Once that regulation is there, it just becomes more accessible and more trusting. But also there's the accountability. If you want to be a business entity and be in the Web3 space, you're going to have to pay taxes and report on that stuff. And so there has to be regulation involved there as well. So.
You good?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. We have another question.
So I have a question more specifically for you. I actually missed the part where you did names, so I'm sorry if I forgot your name.
Steve Adkins.
Can you say your name and then which program you're in?
I'm Jake. I'm in SimViz.
Okay.
My question was more about your example regarding the artist. In that example, it kind of seemed more like it was more seller friendly and not very consumer friendly. Also with the example you gave of the NFL NFT. Do you see this market being more seller friendly like it seems to be now, or do you see it becoming more consumer friendly eventually? And how do you see it doing that?
I love your question. Thank you.
That is a very good question, because that's part of the problem with the regulation. Brice over here mentioned rug pulls. Rug pulls is when you buy into an NFT and then whoever started the NFT, the project team or whatever, takes it back and there's nothing you can do about it. That's a big part of this regulation. From a seller standpoint, it's all about, anytime you're talking about a company, is if there is a need or if there's a want out there for it. So I think eventually it's going to come consumer based, because I don't know if you caught me earlier, but like I buy the NFTs that I like. There's an aspect of education that goes along with that, just like anything else. As a matter of fact, talking about regulation, a lot of companies are staying away from the word investment when it comes to NFTs. They want to call them digital assets because they're scared of this regulation. So I think the government, has to get involved in this to make it more of a consumer-based, market. But it's just a matter of, I'm a huge baseball fan, and I'd say the first batter just got done, being up to bat. That's where we're, in my opinion, we are so early on this. There are so many things that still needs to happen. It's kind of like the first person back in the 1950s that had a color TV in the neighborhood, and everybody looked through the front window to look at it. And then eventually people had more black and white TVs, and they had color TVs. This is an industry that continues to grow, and a lot of those questions are going to have to be fleshed out. But that's a very, very good, because these companies some of them want to take advantage. Obviously, all companies want to make money, but consumers also want to be able to invest in these things and make money that way as well, because it really is an investment. They want to call it a digital asset. That's for collectors. Yes, I'm a collector, but I'm more of an investor. It's all about the money for me as well.
Thank you. Do you have another question? Are you good?
No, I was more curious about, with the NFL example, what do I get to do with that? I mean, as much as I can't make up a story now about going to the game, now I have the proof and other people can't make up stories. What else do I get with that?
You might get some utility with it. As an example, let's say, the game was at SoFi Stadium in LA. So what they might do, and this is a big thing with NFTs, is about utility. Utility would be like a bonus for owning that NFT. So as an example, if they wanted to give utility to that Super Bowl ticket, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, SoFi Stadium might be able to give you a 20% discount during the playoffs next year. If the Rams or the Chargers make it because they share that stadium, they might give you a 20% discount for owning that NFT. So you'd walk up, and I know SoFi is cashless, so they might be able to incorporate this, that if you own that NFT and you show it on your digital wallet, you might be able to get discounts for food, things like that. There's many ways utilities can be added to an NFT. It's just a lot of them haven't been fleshed out yet.
Thank you. Yeah, can I say something about the example you gave when he was saying that the royalty from Spotify would go towards everyone who owns an NFT. That's literally you buying an NFT and doing nothing and receiving royalties. So it gives you an incentive where you could actually make money just by owning that NFT.
Passive income.
Yeah, passive income. Okay. There you go.
And one other thing that, and I'll just give you a personal example of me. Another project that I'm invested in is a project called Feeshes, Feeshes. My whole life, one of my hobbies has been reef tanks, saltwater reef tanks. Like you go down to the Keys and take a chunk and put it in your living room. And for years and years and years, there's so much education that goes into it to get the balance just right with the fish and the corals and everything that goes on in there. I had a 100-gallon tank that was completely stable, and last June, the seam came apart, and I had 100 gallons of salt water go onto our hardwood floors. Cost $39,000 worth of damage. I'm not getting into it anymore. You know what I'm going to do? I've invested in this Feeshes. Eventually, I want to get an OLED TV, put it on the screen, and it looks like I have got a reef tank with live coral, fish that will grow. Michael talked about being able to breed horses for horse racing. I see with this Feeshes, that type of thing, to where I never have to worry about salt water, I never have to mix, I never have to worry about fish dying, blah, 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 blah. That's where I see with some real world. So you talk about consumer, it's really, get what you like. So I'm really interested in this project, and it's something that, is kind of a passion of mine, but I've just kind of turned it on its head.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some questions online as well. What are the essentials that you need to create an NFT collection?
I can answer that. So one thing about NFT collections is there's a few things, right? So one, the creator, right? The creator needs to be very trustworthy. They're doxed, which means their information. They're not just anonymous, right? The reason for that is you want some sort of trust so that the rug pulls don't happen. However, with trust like that, celebrities have been in a lot of hot water promoting NFTs they don't understand. Yeah. So it's very important that when you're looking to a project or creating a collection, that you are straightforward and really providing a lot of information and transparency. So things like a white paper, a roadmap. Although I would caveat, a lot of these are kind of somewhat could be empty promises unless it is an organization that can deliver, kind of like trusting Disney behind an NFT because it's a real organization behind it versus some anonymous people. And another thing is community building. Something we haven't really touched a lot on is NFTs revolve around Discord, right? NFT collection. So the reason I say that, and Discord is a community building tool for chat, and I know everyone in the game studies understands it, but it's so important to be able to create that sense of community for various reasons, for marketing, creating hype, disseminating information, communicating with your audience. And, that's kind of very like a younger generation thing and not quite the older ones, like the millennials are barely, we're understanding it, but it's also very on the younger generation side. But what's important there too is understanding your audience, right? So one thing about Disney is that, let's say the legacy IPs like the Marvels, the Mickey Mouse, they're very protective IP. But with NFTs, the request of a lot of communities, like, we want to own it, right? But with Disney, they have a tight control over the IP, so it's not always going to work in terms of these legacy IPs that people are going to flock to. So when you look at Bored Apes, right, they're top one most of the time in terms of NFT value. And why is that? Is because it's a IP that was created specifically for the communities that enjoy collecting that. And two, an actual ownership of their apes, right? They can monetize it, they can do whatever they want with it because they own it. When you have Mickey Mouse as an NFT, you can't say you own Mickey Mouse. You own a picture of Mickey Mouse and something else that Disney allows you to do. But same thing with other NFTs like Bored Apes, because a lot of it's governed by the smart contract, right? So a lot of that, whatever's in the smart contract has to be followed. That is like the written rule of the blockchain. If it's written there, it will execute it to the T, no ifs, no buts. Sometimes you can modify it, but most time you can't. So there's a lot that goes into it. We could probably talk about this for the next year. There's it's such a hard thing to do. It's black magic sometimes, but sometimes you just get lucky with your NFT collection when you're creating it, and you hit it big, and then you can kind of grow it. But it's a lot that can go with it.
You said one of the biggest parts though is the community. A lot of these cryptos that made it to the top is literally because of people like you and me that just found something so interested and started writing their own blogs about it and creating their own videos about it. And when you see a big community behind it, there's a big chance that it could grow. Now, obviously, you still got to be careful because even though the community's big, the founders might not be good people. But if you find the right one with a solid community, that's a good investment to look at. You just got to make sure there's something behind it, because if you go in and you're the first buyer, or the first one grabbing those kind of NFTs, you might be setting yourself up for failure. So follow the numbers and the people.
Perfect. Next question. Can you insure an NFT?
I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, the thing is like in terms of ownership of the NFT, I'm sure there's going to be services that exist, or there might be that I might not know of one. But if you have that proof of ownership, you should be able to insure it.
Don't give your seed phrase away. What I mean by that is a lot of these NFTs you hold in a digital wallet. When you set up that wallet, there's a lot of them have 12-word phrases like maybe microphone, water, table, carpet. It has to be in a certain order. And if you lose that seed phrase and you need to set that wall up again, you're not going to be able to do it. I heard of when the hurricane hit Fort Myers of a few people that lost all their seed phrases and everything in the hurricane. They forgot to take it with them. Some people, to make sure that they insure an NFT, you understand, you don't necessarily want to put this on your phone. You don't want to write this down on a piece of paper. I do know that some people say you need to go as far as having this printed onto a piece of metal and then putting that in the safe deposit box. So if the bank burns down, your piece of metal will still have that seed phrase on it, and the metal won't melt. So I haven't heard about insurance for NFTs, but I would just say don't give away passwords, don't give away seed phrases.
Yeah, I would go to the idea of that there are platforms that are building basically a type of insurance where not necessarily you lose your wallet or your passphrase, hard wallet, etc. But if you get this project gets hacked and you stored your funds on this particular project, you basically get refunded a certain amount of money for participating in a smart contract that's actually a DeFi insurance. So there's some early stages of that we're constantly thinking of that we may not be aware of, but that's an industry in itself. So any industry that you think of that exists in the real world is an industry that people are thinking about building some type of DApp or smart contract for. You just look it up and say the different ecosystems, the different industries of cryptocurrencies. And under insurance, there are some actual interesting organizations that are building ways to insure your digital assets. But yes, hardware wallet is a way of protecting your assets in a way. But yeah, that's one concept.
Thank you. Do you have a question? Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Forrest Ossoff from SimViz.
Hi.
I'm wondering, I invested largely into crypto, and things were going well right up until Russia attacked. And then everything fell off a cliff. So when are you estimating something might be worth investing in again?
It's hard to say. I mean, like the thing is, the volatility of crypto is so much more multiplied than in terms of like the actual standard day trading or stocks or anything else. So it's a fun ride. I'll put it that way. And it's a learning opportunity though too. But in terms of when things are gonna get back to normalcy, what is normal? And so the thing is, there's a lot of things that are still needing to be defined. But ultimately, we're optimistic. I think one thing in particular, Albert touched on this in a separate conversation, is because we're in that crypto winter, it gives us, like the creators, opportunity to really kind of focus on tooling and that foundational tech to ensure that our experiences are stable and can handle scalability. So we've been more heads down than anything else and just hoping for the best.
The other thing is, like, I don't care how much technology a person has, nobody can predict the future, right? And we can give you all the advice on when it's going to go up and when it's going to go down, and we can give you different versions, and none of us will probably hit it right on the money. But the one key thing I can tell you, and I'm not a financial advisor, but one thing I had to throw that out. One thing I can tell you for a fact is when the bears come, the bulls come also, and sooner or later they come back. It's patience. It's all about being patient and think long term.
Yeah, I think the biggest term is dollar cost averaging, in the sense where you know your risk limit. Don't emotionally put in certain things. This goes from any type of investment, stocks, housing, anything. But you know your risk. You know what. And some people put too much in that they're not willing to see that lose it or anything. And some put too little and they get upset. You can't live off the what ifs. But it's dollar cost averaging. You set in your mind that I want to have this X amount of money or into this particular asset, and that's my limit. I'm stopping at $500. I'm stopping at $1,000, and I won't do any more. But you do it in increments where it's comfortable and it's not emotional. $1 or $2 every 2 weeks, whatever that may be. But you have to understand that these things come with risk. So one of my things that I usually throw out there is like certain books out there to educate yourself, because some things we just get into and we don't even know the basis of, like napkinfinance.com. These things talk about basic things like inflation and compound interest and all those things, diversification. But there's no guarantee that you're going to see a surplus. But think about this concept. The news, the media always talk about things when they're up. It's exciting. And then they bash it when it's down or whatever, and everybody have this FOMO. When you go to the store, something's on sale, the sign is red, and it said buy it because it's 50% off. You never see that sign in investment. You usually hear about it when it's up and things like that. But when you see things are 95% down from last year, it's kind of a sign. Not every single crypto, not every single investment, but when everybody's quiet and nobody wants to talk about it, that's when you do your deepest research and try to figure out where you want to go.
You know, there's two types of investors in NFT and crypto. There's diamond hands and paper hands. So if you had paper hands last March when Russia invaded, you're okay. You got out. But I'm guessing you kept it, and you had those diamond hands. Yeah, there's a bunch of us with you there, bud. I've always wanted to be a diamond hands, but I wish I was paper hands last March when Putin decided to invade, Ukraine.
I had a massive, massive increase, and right now I think I'm at even.
Right. Well, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Happy for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
So next question from online. Do you want to go first? Okay. What's the best way to find others interested in creating and marketing an NFT collection?
Online. Like, they're on all the social media. I think Discord has a big one. Reddit has a big
I was going to say the
population.
community there, right?
Yeah, the community. Yeah. It's all community. Like, and if you go on any social media platform, like in Facebook, you can search crypto groups, and you'll find a ton of them show up. You go on Twitter is where I do most of my conversations at, and on there is every community you could imagine has one on Twitter where they're conversating heavy about it. So social media is where you're going to find the majority of these communities: social media, Reddit, Discord, things like that.
Michael?
Yeah, I'd say Twitter in particular is where a lot of the crypto and NFT conversations are happening. But also to find projects that align with your passions and interests, because ultimately you're going to find other similarities and alignment with those folks that you meet, and then ultimately you might start iterating and then ideating on a project that you might create on your own. So
Perfect.
for me, that's the best way, especially, and it's just the networking that we teach at Full Sail too. Is you got to get yourself out there and just have those conversations and meet similar-minded folks.
Thank you. Do you want to go to the mic and ask her a question?
Hello, my name is Conan. I'm here, Full Sail student as a business and entertainment. My question kind of was related to that about how you go about investing, picking the right NFT, and you guys mentioned earlier how really right now is up to the big companies because I guess there's no regulations for anybody anonymous to go create an NFT. My question is it going to be that technical that mom and pop, shop can't create NFTs for like their own creations that they make to be able to, continue their own family businesses? Or is this NFT thing going to be really just for the corporations of the world?
It's not just for corporations. I mean, the average person, once you understand how to get the wallet that matches up with the site to buy the NFT, it's pretty simple once you get to that point. So it's not just corporations. Anybody can understand how to create. When OpenSea, you can go on there and in less than 10 minutes, you can never know anything, and in 10 minutes you can figure out how to create your NFT. And sometimes it can be expensive, sometimes it's not. It depends on which platform you're using.
But until that regulation comes out, myself, like that, have no idea on how to make one. I could go, like you said, and learn it 10 minutes, create something. I can go ahead and sell, have people invest in it now, unless I have that network.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that, so the easiest part is actually the creation, right? You can create it as fast as you can, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever. The hard part is the business around it, right? Mm-hmm. You need to build the community. You need to have a business plan. You need to have investors. You need to have someone believing. You have to have a team of vision to begin with, right? Because if you make an NFT collection, if you make an NFT of a shoe, right? So why would someone buy that? Is there value to it? Unless people find value in what you're selling, then it doesn't matter, right? You're in business entertainment, right? That's what they teach you there, right? It's like, how do we sell something? Like even in games or software development, we can create the product, right? But if we don't go out and sell them and convince people to spend their hard-earned money on it, it has zero value and we've failed, right? So think about the actual business plan and what value you're providing. Then the NFT part really doesn't matter. It's just a vehicle to sell something. You could sell it as a normal piece of paper if you want. If people really want it, they'll pay $1,000 for a piece of paper.
And we're also generalizing NFTs in our conversation here. What that NFT is could be many different things. So when you're talking about large corporations versus small mom and pop businesses that are wanting to do something, if you're just looking to get your art out there, then you could easily create those NFTs and slowly, organically build that awareness for your art. And people will start to gain interest, and then you might start seeing or collecting passive income or those royalties because now people are transacting your artwork. But it all comes down to that utility, and Albert, talked to that point, is it comes with that research and having that plan and identifying those pain points of what are you looking to solve with this NFT. And that's what it comes down to. There's so many different applications of what an NFT is going to be. But
I think a business rule is always about supply and demand, scarcity. It's useless if you put out 1 million NFTs. You did all that hard work, you put all your content out at once, and you're just flooding the market, and there's so many of them. But you put out 1, you test the waters 2, you get feedback 3, but you're spacing it out over time where there's this demand that slowly builds up, but it's a scarcity. And then it's anticipation too as well. So it's like over time, I can't wait for this artist to put out their next project, and it's only going to be 2. It's only going to be 2 that's available. Then you generate something there. But you play. The interesting thing about crypto is it can be rewarding when you just are playing around in the space. You're learning, you're curious, and seeing how to create an NFT, what this crypto does, how did this wallet works. I remember when I played around with ENS, Ethereum Name Services. If I asked you what your Ethereum address was, you wouldn't be able to memorize that and write that down. You have to give me a QR code or whatever. But if you said student.eth, then okay, I can memorize that and I can send you something with ease. So Ethereum Name Services allows you to create those different things. I was playing around and it cost some transaction fees, but I was playing around just creating a whole bunch of them. And then the next minute, ENS comes out and says, you get to participate, or because you participated in playing around with our space, you were active on our space and you created these names. For each of those names, we're going to give you the ENS coin. So it's just playing around in the space, being curious, seeing how to create things, and going to reliable resource, not what the coin to buy, but how to build this smart contract, how does Solidity work, how to create an NFT. Those are the things you probably want to use YouTube for instead of the TikTok videos and things like that. So,
Thank you.
Go down that YouTube hole.
Yeah, I appreciate all your insights. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question coming from online. Is the end goal to have multiple metaverses that are somehow connected?
I mean, it's not the end goal in a sense. That's just the beginning. Once we get the metaverses connected, from space, your stuff to my stuff, or worlds, different worlds, that opens up the infinite possibilities at that point.
User experiences, different things.
I can barely even imagine. And at this point, it's just the reason why we want it connected is because it makes everyone better, right? There is an infinite space out there for everyone to enjoy, to find their community, find where they belong, right? Because the big difference with the metaverse versus real life, right? In real life, there's just one Earth that we know of, obviously, but with the metaverse, we can have literally the infinite possibilities of this. Could be a digital twin of Orlando, right? It could be a completely different fantastical world. Could be Lord of the Rings, could be Tron, could be whatever you can think of. But the key is, so that it can thrive together, is be able to transport your avatar, yourself, your assets between each other. So I think that is actually the beginning of the actual metaverses, and then the rest is building up from there.
Okay. Next question. I'm going to take 2 more questions because we're way over time. How long before the general population understands and is able to interact with the metaverse?
I think it's going to take a very big tech company like Apple to come out with some VR glasses or augmented reality glasses and then showcase that. If you think about it, when Apple comes out with like the Apple Watch, all of a sudden people like digital watches. Now it's the #1 selling type of watch in the world. I think it's going to take a company like Apple to show people, to make it simpler, to be able to just showcase it. And then I think that'll come in. But how long?
I actually would disagree with that. I would say that everyone's already doing the metaverse right now. From Fortnite, Roblox, to World of Warcraft. These are metaverses, really. They're just not connected. And that's really the big difference, that people are thinking that the metaverse isn't here. No, we've been living in video games since Pong, right? It's something that we are already doing, and I think it's just really connecting it. And blockchain, I think, is the key to connecting these worlds.
Yeah, I would agree with that we are already kind of utilizing the foundation of metaverse in a sense where, Facebook, the actual Web2 Facebook that we interact with, is a form of metaverse. Our identity is there, your profile is there, and then you got Twitter, you have an avatar that represents you there, all these different identities, but you're adding this virtual world to it. And you ever heard of Second Life or Sims and all these different things? These different worlds are just being added to more components. It's being built upon, and then blockchain is tying those things together certain infrastructure, scalability with cloud, all these different things are tying it together to a bigger picture. What it looks like now and what it looks like from 2 days from now or the future, it's going to evolve, and we can't really predict that, but it's kind of here, but it'll continue to mature.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We're definitely here already. However, I think it'll take 5 to 10 years before the rest of the world realize that they're actually there already. Most people, I don't want to deal with the metaverse. I hear so many people say that, and I laugh. I'm like, but you play Fortnite all day long, like, and like my
I think
son,
they don't make that connection though.
Yeah, they don't make the connection. And like my son, he plays Roblox, and I'm like, yo, there's a blockchain Roblox. You should get on there. And he's like, but I like Roblox. I'm like, it is Roblox, right? A lot of people don't realize they're already dealing with metaverse like software and applications and things like that. But I think in 5 to 10 years is where the conversation is going to go from one person say, let's go in the metaverse, and one person like, I don't want to deal with it, to it's going to be a normal, I just left there kind of thing, or I'm already here. Or when they go outside with the augmented reality, they're going to realize, okay, I'm dealing with the metaverse now. So I say 5 to 10 years, it'll be a normal thing. Guessing, because obviously I don't know for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you. One last question. So I am a computer science student. What skills should I be focusing on to make me more hireable as a blockchain developer?
Well, you can start with, as we've talked about before, learning the foundations of it, right? Cryptography, distributed ledger technology, databases, basically the foundational pieces of what makes a good CS student. So I'd say you're halfway there. Now, to be able to be a blockchain developer, just learn Solidity or Rust or whatever, the language that chain.
That is for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the key component is to be a solid computer science student, because everything in blockchain is computer science, like ramped up to like some weird abstract level sometimes. But if you are good with your data structures, you're good with optimization, understanding networking, then you'll have a solid foundation and everything you need to be a blockchain developer.
So if you are a student here at Full Sail, really go over everything from data structures to database, and then make sure that you really understand your computer networks class, and then maybe start learning other things. Yesterday we were talking about this, and we were talking that's more a master's level course. Then you really need to be a software engineer, a computer scientist before thinking about those types of skills. But yeah. You wanted to add anything else?
I say consensus algorithms, understanding the difference between where we were before, how did a blockchain operate, the math behind it to actually build out a proof of work network. What is the validation of those transactions, and what does that mean? And then you go where we're headed with most of the blockchains is proof of stake, and how they differentiate themselves between the others. So
perfect. Well, thank you all for coming today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. I hope you guys enjoyed it here in the Fortress and live from Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I hope you enjoyed our episode. Keep following us. Next month we have more episodes of Tech Tuesday, and I think we're going to have 2 episodes of Tech Tuesday next month. Thank you all for watching us today. I am Dr. Haifa Maamar. Thank you.